culture. Be stylish. Be seductive. Be cynical. Cynical.
I'm Donald Cross, or prefer Don. I've been a photographer for well over 40 years, but it's never been my real job. I like money. And
I
so
can
I never,
relate. Yeah.
never figured out a way to monetize this. It didn't have me doing a bunch of stuff I didn't want to do. So, but it's been a lot of fun.
What would you say is your style of photography, or do you do multiple styles?
I used to do multiple styles, but I've kind of settled into I do some pinup and some light erotic stuff, mostly in studio. I don't work outdoors very much anymore. When I first moved to Florida, I did a lot of beach photography, but it's too hot. Sand gets in everything, and it attracts a lot of unwanted attention. So,
I can relate. Some of my first shoots were at a beach, and then it's like all the sand gets into the equipment. So I wouldn't do that these days with the cameras I have. What inspired you to become a photographer?
actually, when my daughter was 2, my wife took her to a professional studio to get some photos done. And in the way of 2-year old, she had a tantrum and didn't want to cooperate. My wife came home angry and complained that I never took pictures of our child. I said, I don't know how, and I don't have a decent camera. She told me to get one and learn. So I did.
How'd you learn in the beginning?
I'm kind of a self learner kind of guy. So mostly books. Started with some simple stuff with Kodak, because this is the days of film, and long before there was digital photography.
Yeah.
Then got some books on lighting and started learning how to do lighting setups, and just kind of went on from there.
I started on a old Canon film camera too before they started putting out the digital cameras. Was there any photographers that stood out to you as far as like the pinup style in the beginning?
Uh, well, there are a lot of pinup photographers. I didn't take too much to the styles. I, there's a whole pinup argument, if you will, that says there's a school of thought that says pinup is summer dresses and stockings, and it all looks like it was done in the 50s.
Yeah.
And I don't care for it. Have I done that? Sure. Some people want it, and so I've done it, but I'm not a big fan of it. I like it to look a little more modern than that. And so, actually, there's a guy named Gary Bernstein who used to be a studio photographer in Hollywood, and he wrote several books, and I got all of them because the writing style was he'd show you a photo that he had done, and then he'd show you the setup that he used to create it, where the lights were at, what the lights were, what kind of modifiers he used, camera settings, the whole 9 yards. So you could say that setup results in this look.
Yeah.
And so that was a huge help.
You said like the old Hollywood style lighting?
Uh, he did not use that. If you really go to old Hollywood, which I love
Yeah.
and really try to replicate in some ways, uh, that was a whole different approach, right? It's big sheet film cameras,
Yeah.
4x5 and 8x10 negatives, and then an army of people who retouched on the negative. And it was an army. I mean, big
Yeah.
studios had this giant mass of people sitting there touching up photos on the negative. And then, of course, they could print as many as they wanted already touched up. I love it because it's incredibly sharp. And then the things that you'd rather not see are gone.
Yeah.
And so I try to get a replication of that in the work that I do. I shoot on an Nikon D850, which is the highest resolution 35 millimeter equivalent camera you can buy. And then do a lot of sharpening in software. When I shot on film, I did a lot of black and white stuff on a copy film that wasn't originally intended for photography. But Kodak made a compensating developer for it so that it would reproduce all the gray tones in between black and white. And it was incredibly sharp. And I just loved it. And I shot color on Kodachrome 25. So it takes a lot of light.
I love black and white photography. Earlier you mentioned, I think you're talking about like cheesecake pinup, right?
Yeah,
What would you say is the difference between that style cheesecake versus modern pinup? Like what is it like mainly the outfits and the lighting approach?
yeah. Um, so I do a lot more stuff in skimpier lingerie, in swimsuits, um, and less um, than would have been appropriate those days. So that to me makes a big distinction as to what I
Yeah.
would call modern pinup.
I think I agree with you that I prefer like the more modern style.
Yeah,
How do you approach lighting these days? What is like your typical lighting setup? And you mentioned you like to work in a studio environment.
yeah. I shoot a lot of stuff on seamless paper. It's sort of an older looking style in itself
Hmm.
and goes in and out of popularity. I know that some people hate it, some people love it. I love it. It allows you focuses clearly on the subject, right? If you're doing things, and I do some stuff in costume, and so it eliminates the extraneous stuff. So if you do something in a costume, it can be hard. You don't want anything in the image that says, if you do something that's supposed to look 50s, then you don't want anything in the image that looks like it was made yesterday. So by using seamless, you just eliminate all of that. There's nothing else in the image but what you put in the image, and that's it.
That's
So
a interesting philosophy.
yeah, and so I have a kind of standard lighting setup that I use. It's three lights on the model and four on the backdrop. Um, Lights on the model have a 16-inch beauty dish and two fairly large soft boxes. I like I like broad lighting and gives the model the opportunity to move a lot, so we can go through a sequence of poses without having to move the lights and give her the freedom to create. Uh, so generally speaking, unless we go from standing poses to kneeling or to the floor, yeah, then I got to lower the lights.
Right.
But in between, she's kind of free to move around, as opposed to real focus stuff where if she moves some way, all of a sudden the lighting's bad,
You got to keep adjusting it. Yeah.
right? I worked with several models who worked with another photographer in the area who has since passed away, and they said and he made wonderful photographs. I really admired what he did, but they all told me, you know, it's like you got to stay in one position because he's just moving lights these infinitesimal degrees to
Yeah.
get the result he wants. And creative for him, less so for the model, I think. 'Cause they're just kind of stuck there.
When I first started too, like I spent a lot of time tinkering with lights, and I think yeah, it would drive the models crazy because they're waiting around, waiting around. But like
Yeah,
I got my system down eventually, and then like, it's pretty much like already set up, and then minor adjustments don't take that long now. But
exactly. And it keeps it flowing. Um, I like to work with models who have something to bring besides just their appearance.
yeah,
Um, I worked, well, you've seen some stuff with Mel Heflin. Mel is principally an actress. She's appeared in a lot of independent films, mostly horror stuff. And so she brings a lot to the party. She's very creative when you get her in the studio.
so I had no idea. Like once I had already received the the answers for the interview, I had like done more research on her. I was like, oh, she's a pretty known actress, like for horror films, like you mentioned. Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah. she's a sweetheart to work with. I mean, she is just uh, so cooperative, and like I say, brings a lot to the party, and she appreciates that. She likes having what she calls a seat at the table.
Right.
So we do a lot of planning. Well, I do with everybody. We do a lot of planning in advance. Uh,
What
most of the
what is that
wardrobe,
process like when you're working with someone for the first time?
it can be challenging the first time. Um, I, I find that the amount of planning I do in advance for a photo shoot is a little unusual. I mean, when I'm working for somebody the first time, they're surprised by it. They come to like it, most of them. Some people, it's just not for them. I've worked with people who are just, yeah, just do whatever you want. And some people who really like Mel, who really get into the process. So, generally speaking, it starts with a concept. We're going to do a cosplay thing. And so you're going to be Poison Ivy, or we're going to do a lingerie thing. And then I will usually share pictures of the wardrobe I have in mind so they know exactly what's coming. And about roughly 90% of my work, I provided the wardrobe. I have an idea in mind of what I want it to look like. And so I do that. So there's some back and forth. Like I say, a lot of people don't care for that. Generally speaking, I wind up not working with because it's the way I do it.
Right. Do you have like a shot list or a plan, or is it more organic once you start the photo shoot?
No, I have a shot list for sure,
Okay.
and but
Me
it's not
too.
it's not rigid, right? You get in there and things happen, right? Mostly good things. Every once in a while, you're doing something, and you go, "This is not coming together the way I thought it would be. Let's move on,
Right.
or let's change something." But that's rare. More commonly, the shoot expands. Right? This was cool. Let's add this thing in, kind of thing. So I try not to let it become so rigid. Again, the models doesn't feel like they're part of the creative process.
Do you find yourself given a lot of direction, or do you prefer the model to reset her poses?
If the model can do it, it's the best,
Yeah.
because then I can be the photographer and not have to worry about it so much. Make sure that all the little things are happening and are in place while she's taking care of making the big things go on. But I've certainly worked with models that need a lot of direction. If and I've done it long enough, like I've done this for over 40 years, that they usually have some ideas of things I can tell them to do and know how to communicate it. But if you're spending all your time doing that, right, it's not going to be the shoot you would hope for.
Right, because you still have to pay attention to the technical details, and that kind of takes
Exactly.
away.
Exactly.
When it comes to working with seamless backdrops, how do you, can you talk about your, I guess, ideas on composition?
I shoot, oh, I get published in mostly online publications a lot. So I tend to shoot in the formats that fit those. So that's 8.5 by 11 and 17 by 11. And so my brain is always thinking in terms of that. Um, of course, models aren't that shape. So I try to introduce posing aids that enable them to get themselves on an angle, to fill the frame. And so I have white and black cafe chairs that they can pop a knee on, extend a leg in one direction and the head in the other direction, makes an angle across the frame and fills the frame without the model getting bigger. Uh,
Right.
so things like that. I don't maintain my own studio anymore. I did for years, but I'm getting older and I just I shoot about once a month, sometimes twice. Um, there are some rental studios that I use in the area. There's a studio that is also kind of a party room about an hour away from here, and the people who own and operate that welcome me there when most of the time, if it's available, I can do a shoot in there, and it's a great place, a lot of space. Uh, I said it doubles as a party space, including some bonded stuff. So there's a lot of gear there. So if we want to incorporate that into a shoot, that's also possible.
Nice. To me, I feel like there's two styles of, I want to say, like I take a lot of images when I'm doing a photo shoot, and then I try and narrow it down to the best, the 5 to 10 that I need for a layout. But then there's other photographers like Steve Diaghiletti, who I mention a lot, who states that he'll take like one roll of film and he'll shoot on a film camera, and sometimes he doesn't even use that whole roll. So he really takes his time to compose each shot. Like I'm trying to be that guy, but I'm always like I need to shoot a lot. What type of photographer would you say you are when it comes to
I
that?
shoot I shoot a lot,
Okay,
since I'm no longer restricted by film, 36 frames and you're done. You got to change rolls and go on. Even then, I didn't care if I went through 4 or 5 rolls of film in a shoot, but this is much better. It's just
yeah,
electrons, and there are always more. And it is, since I don't shoot all the time, and I'm shoot usually means I got to load all my gear in my van. I got to drive an hour. I got to unload everything. I got to set it all up. I got to tear it all down. I got to put it, it's a big deal. So when I do it, I want to do a lot. I want to make the trip worthwhile. So I will shoot 5, 6. I have done as much as 10 sets in a day.
wow.
Um, and so it is not unusual for me to come home with 500 plus images on a memory card.
But you're doing like multiple sets with different outfits, like that you'd
Yes,
use for different like publications.
yes.
That's a good method.
It's but that gets you back to the shoot list thing.
Yeah.
Since I'm changing backdrops to match colors of costumes and so on, so I got to know what order I'm going at, because putting up a backdrop, taking one down, it's not the end of the world, but it takes time. And so you only want to do it once. You don't want to bring it down and have to put it back up again because you forgot something. So the sequence becomes very important. And yeah, that's a complex plan because there are other factors that play into it. What the model's doing with their hair and how long that's going to take, and
Oh yeah. Makeup.
the makeup changes and what that's going to take, and so on. So that's part of that communication process in the planning.
What is your retouching process like, or your photo editing? Do you do much photo editing?
A lot. Because I said, I'm shooting on this very, very high resolution. You know, the raw images and a D850 are 45.7 megapixels.
Wow.
So a lot of detail, more detail than the subject would probably care to see.
Right.
But the point is that, eyes are the best example. You want all the detail in the eye you possibly can, but if like there are little veins in the eye, you want those to go away, that there are little lines on the eye, you want those to go away. All right. So shoot on very high detail, but I do a lot of editing to get rid of extraneous stuff that I don't want in the photo. I do some things to increase the vibrance of the image. Generally speaking, start to finish on a single image with one model, probably 20, 25 minutes. If I start introducing multiple models, then of course it gets longer.
Yeah.
And if I'm doing something special, every once in a while I will remove a background and replace it with something else, then the time goes up.
The one thing that was gets me, or not so much these days, but like the skin pores, like trying to find the delicate balance of where you're not doing too much, like touching up the skin blemishes and stuff. There's like a delicate balance. Some people go way too far, and I think it looks unrealistic. And then some people just find that right balance. How do you deal with that?
Uh, Again, because what I'm looking for is an idealized version
Mhm.
of the person. If a little too much is better than a little too little. So I'm not too concerned about going overboard. I agree with you though. I've certainly seen the ones where it looks like, there's models tend to do that to themselves. I've had models who go in and retouch an image after I've given to them,
Yeah.
and all that's left is a mouth, eyes, nostrils, and eyebrows, right? So what I software I use to do like pore retouching and so forth, I tend to keep the tools at the lowest level.
Yeah.
And that tends to be enough. Every once in a while you get into a space and have to turn it up a little bit, but mostly, like the skin retouching tool I use has settings from 0 to 100. I'm usually around 10.
Okay. You using like Photoshop?
I I use Photoshop elements.
Okay.
I I, I don't like the full Photoshop. It includes a whole bunch of stuff I'm never going to use,
Oh yeah.
and which drives up the cost. And also, I don't know. I tried to learn it. I don't find it at all intuitive.
Oh yeah. No, it's hard. I always have to look up stuff on YouTube just to figure like a quick thing out.
Yeah,
What's your opinion on AI? Is it a useful
I,
tool or are you not for it?
I, I am not for it. Right? I guess I've been doing this for a long time. I felt that about 5 or 6 years ago, I was already being replaced by selfie sticks and Instagram filters. Uh, so I just feel like it's there are probably cases where it could be a useful tool. I don't doubt somebody could make it that way, right? But I'm an old guy. Uh, I mean, I've always tried to be a fairly modern old guy. Spent my life in the semiconductor industry, so it kind of causes you to look to the future. But um, it was a long time before I went digital.
Yeah.
You know, and partly as an equipment issue. I had spent a lifetime getting some of the best lenses Nikon ever made, and their early digital cameras wouldn't mount those lenses. And
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like, oh my God, I'm not paying thousands of dollars for all new glass so I can do this. But eventually they came out with some cameras that would mount the old AI lenses. And so I went digital and I've mostly loved it. I mean, it's hard to say what could be wrong with it.
Yeah. I feel the same way about like smartphones. I feel like the amount of people, like as far as the models wanting to reach out photographers has gone down because a lot of them can just shoot it on their phone now.
Yeah,
But it's not the same like as working with a trained, photographer.
I agree, and I think I don't know a lot of photographers. Uh, I've seen a lot of photographers work. I and can get some history on them. I, there are certainly photographers that were born in the digital generation who do some incredible work. Right? But on balance, I think if you worked on film first, you got used to getting it right in the camera because although I had a dark room and I did some stuff in there, what you can do is pretty limited.
Yeah.
If you don't get it right in the camera, you're probably never going to get an image you really wanted. So, and I think too many guys with cameras just shoot whatever and they're going to fix it all in software.
Yeah.
and
I know what you mean.
they're wrong.
Have you encountered any like censorship issues on social media, like when promoting, posting some of your images?
Oh, absolutely. But I'm not, when I say censorship issues, I figure out what they'll deal with and I self censor.
Okay.
I haven't run into, I used to post stuff on Facebook, but I gave it up because, not because, they had rules. Fine. Those are the rules. That's what I put there. Right. But it's such a broad base of people that somebody was always complaining about an image that I had,
Yeah, I know what
you
you
know,
mean.
and then I'd get a thing from Facebook and I'd go, yeah, but it's okay. And they'd look at it and go, yeah, it's okay. Right. Um, so I don't know. The reach wasn't worth the trouble. So I finally let it go. So I post stuff on Instagram, and Instagram's fairly restrictive. And so I post stuff that meets their requirements, and I really don't run into a problem. I put more stuff up on Twitter because their rules are a lot more relaxed. And so I can post most anything I do as long as I don't put it in a header or profile pic or
Yeah,
something. I really don't have a problem. So,
Twitter is very relaxed.
yeah.
Um, my last question is to elaborate on that is where can people find your work? And do you have any upcoming projects or publications you want to mention?
Well, it's just a big bunch of holiday stuff. And so uh, a lot of publications come out in December, uh, including 9 or 10 covers.
Wow.
Uh, so, but yeah, I've done fairly well with that. I've had probably, I don't know, I used to keep real clear track of it, but it's something like 1,300 photo sets published, and
Wow.
about something over 200 of those were covers.
Wow.
Um, but so in terms of publications, my work's on Instagram. It's just Don Cross Photography. My work's on Twitter. It's just Don Cross Photo. Um, every time I get a publication, I put it up on Twitter, usually on Instagram, not always. It depends. Um, the so if you want to look at my work, that's where you can find it. Um, I'm not shooting this month. I'm in the middle of cataract surgery, and I got one eye done 5 days ago, and the other one's coming up in a couple of weeks. So I'm not going to be able to see well enough to do photos. All that process over with. But I do have a shoot coming up in that already set in February, which should be really interesting. We're gonna do it in Edgewater. I've got 5 models and 2 riggers coming to do a kind of modern Irving Claw look.
Oh,
So it
nice.
should be really interesting.
I love Irving Claw. And good luck with your surgery. I hope everything goes well.
Yeah, doing okay so far. I just it's not a big deal anymore. It's all done with lasers. So, but it just the healing process to get your vision back is takes a couple of weeks.
Hmm. I, thank you for doing this interview with me, and I really appreciate that you let us publish your work in Subspace. And I think the photo set is really good.
Thank you. The well, I said we're doing stuff in February that'll probably be right down your alley. So
Okay,
I may send you some of that too.
definitely keep us in mind. I appreciate that.
I'll do that.